Hello, everybody. I'm Parsha Becky, and we are back for another week of Parsha. As I'm sure you recall, we are currently in the middle of reading the book of Bereishit, which means at the start. We are at the start of the Torah, at the start of the whole world, and at the start of our story. This week's Parsha is called Vayeshev. Vayeshev can mean he sat or he lived. And it's called Vayeshev because at the start of the Parsha, it tells us that Yaakov lived in the land of Canaan, now known as Israel, with his whole family. Unfortunately, Yaakov played favorites. We know that parents are not supposed to do that. Yaakov never got the memo. So he told anyone who wanted to know, oh yes, my favorite child is Yosef. I like him better than all my other kids. Hello, all my children, and my favorite child, Yosef, who I like better than the others. He even got Yosef a fancy, expensive striped shirt, which none of the other brothers got. So all of Yosef's brothers were jealous of Yosef and resentful of him for being the favorite and getting stuff that they didn't get. To make matters worse, Yosef was also a tattletale. He liked to tattle on his brothers to their dad about what they were doing, which certainly did not make him very popular with them. And Yosef started having dreams. Yosef went to his brothers. He said, guys, I had the coolest dream. I had a dream that we were all gathering food outside and all your bundles of food bowed down to my bundle of food. And Yosef's brothers are like, what? You think you're going to be the boss of us? You're not the boss of us, Yosef. We don't even like you. And then Yosef has another dream. He's like, well, the last dream was so popular. I'll tell them this one too. He says, guys, I had another cool dream. I had a dream that there were 11 stars. Hey, just like I have 11 brothers and the sun and the moon. And they were all bowing down to me. And his brothers get really mad. They're like, Yosef, we're never going to bow down to you. We hate you, Yosef. And even their dad, Yaakov, was like, listen, Yosef, your dreams kind of make it sound like you want your whole family to bow down to you. It's not the kind of thing you want to go around talking about. Now, one day, Yaakov sends Yosef to go check on his brothers and maybe tattle on them a bit. He says, Yosef, I think your brothers are down in Shechem. Can you go check on them? Yosef goes to Shechem, but he can't find his brothers. He's wandering around lost. And this guy sees him. He's like, hey, can I help you? And Yosef says, yeah, I'm looking for my brothers. It's like a whole group of them. And the guy says, yeah, I heard them saying they were going to Dotan. So Yosef thanks him. He heads to Dotan. The brothers see Yosef coming before he sees them. And they're like, oh, hey, there's Yosef with his stupid dreams. Hey, they say, we've got an idea. If we murder Yosef, then he'll never bother us with his dreams again. Side point, no matter how annoying your younger brother or sister is, murder is not the answer. Do not murder them. That is bad. They didn't get that notice. But Reuven, the oldest brother, says, I kind of feel like murdering would be bad. So how about instead of murdering Yosef, I've got another way that we can get rid of him forever where we don't need to kill our own brother, but we'll be rid of him forever and he won't bother us again. How about we throw him into that hole in the ground there and he won't be able to escape? Eventually he'll die there, but it won't be like us killing him. It'll be the hole in the ground killing him. And we'll never have to hear him again. Side point, no matter how annoying your younger brother or sister is, do not throw them into a hole in the ground to die. That is bad. Reuven actually has a secret plan, though. Reuven's secret plan is he's going to sneak back when nobody's looking, and he'll take Yosef out of the hole in the ground and save him and bring him home. Nobody else knows Reuven's secret plan. So Yosef gets close, and the brothers grab him, and they steal his fancy striped shirt, and they throw him into the hole in the ground. He can't get out. Reuven goes off to do some work, and the other brothers sit down and have a picnic, because, throwing their brother to die in a hole in the ground works up an appetite. And while they're eating, they see some people riding by on camels selling stuff. And one of the brothers, Yehuda, has a great idea. Yehuda says, listen, guys, I feel kind of bad about us leaving Yosef to die. We're still kind of killing our own brother, which isn't nice to do. So I've got a better idea of a way we can get rid of him forever without him dying. He'll never bother us again, and we get something more out of it than we would if we just leave him to die. How about we sell him to those guys over there? We'll get money. They'll take him away as a slave. We'll never see him again. The other brother's like, yeah, great idea. Side point, no matter how annoying your younger brother or sister is, do not sell them into slavery. That is very, very bad. The brothers didn't get that memo either. So they pull Yosef out of the hole in the ground, and they go to the people riding by, and they're like, hey, listen, here's our younger brother. He's kind of annoying, but he works hard. And the people say, yeah, he looks like he's worth about $20. So they take Yosef as a slave, and the brothers get 20 pieces of silver for him. And the people ride off with Yosef to bring him to Egypt. Now, Reuven comes back. He checks the hole in the ground. Is Yosef still there? No, he missed the whole bit with taking Yosef out and selling him. He goes to his brothers. He's like, oh my God, guys, Yosef's missing. What do I do? And the other brothers say, no problem. We've got a plan. And they take Yosef's striped shirt that they stole and they dunk it in animal blood so it looks all gross and bloody. And then they mail it to Yaakov. And they say, hey, Dad, look what we found. Do you recognize it? Is that Yosef's shirt? And Yaakov recognizes it. He thinks the animal blood is Yosef's blood. And he says, oh my God, Yosef got eaten by an animal. And the brothers try to comfort him. They're like, there. It's only Yosef. Nobody liked him anyway. And Yaakov says, I'm going to be sad about Yosef for the rest of my life. Meanwhile, Yehuda moves out. Yehuda gets married. He has 3 kids. His kids grow up. His wife passes away. He wants his oldest son to get married. He finds this nice girl, Tamar, and he makes an agreement with Tamar. He says, Tamar, I promise you're going to be married to somebody from my family no matter what. So Tamar marries Yehuda's oldest kid, but then Yehuda's son passes away with no children. And what about Tamar? So Yehuda says, don't worry, Tamar. I know I promised you're going to be married to somebody from my family. I'll marry my second son. No problem. Tamar marries Yehuda's second son, but he also passes away with no children. And now Yehuda knows that he promised Tamar she has to be married to somebody from his family. He's got a third son that she can marry, but he kind of decides, like, you know what? I don't really like Tamar anymore. I'd rather just lie to her and break my promise. So he says, listen, Tamar, of course you're going to marry my third son, because like we agreed, you're going to be married to somebody from my family, but he's still kind of too young to get married. So just wait a few years until he's old enough to get married, and then I'll reach out to you. So Tamar waits. Yehuda's third son grows up. He's old enough to get married. Still no word from Yehuda. Tamar's not stupid. She figures out what this means. But she's like, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I'm going to make sure Yehuda keeps my promise, whether he knows it or not. So when Yehuda's going on his business trip that he goes on every year, Tamar gets up in disguise. She's completely disguised. He can't recognize her. And she hangs out along the road where he passes by. And he sees her. He doesn't know it's Tamar. She's in disguise. He's like, hey, you want to go on a date? She says, yeah, I do. And they date and they get married. She never gives him her name. So when he's continuing on his trip, he's like, listen, I want to come back and find you here. And she's like, yeah, I want you to come back here too. But I just want some like guarantee that you'll come back, even though we're married. How about you leave me your signet ring, which is like, it's got his signature on it. It's basically his ID in ancient times. Nobody else has one like it. But he says, sure, yeah, we're married. I'll leave you my signet ring. He gives her a signet ring. He goes on his trip. When he comes back, she's gone. He can't find her anywhere. And when he asks around, the people in the area are like, we don't know who you're talking about. There is no such person by that description. Finally, he gives up. He's like, well, I'm married to her, but I don't know where she is. I don't know her name. I don't know how to find her. So he just goes home. And then his neighbors say, hey, Yehuda, you know Tamar, who was supposed to marry your youngest son because you promised you'd be married to somebody from your family? Well, it turns out she broke that promise. She married some other guy. She won't tell us who. And now she's pregnant. She's going to have a baby. And Yehuda says, Tamar, you are in big trouble. And Tamar says, oh, yeah, totally. Big trouble. No problem. Just one thing. The guy I'm married to, here's this ring. Do you recognize it? And Yehuda recognizes it. He says, oh, that's my signet ring. I'm married to Tamar. And Yehuda says, okay, never mind, guys. Tamar's not in trouble. Turns out she was right. I was wrong. She knew I was trying to break my promise. She made sure I kept my promise. She's married to me, so no problem. And Yehuda and Tamar like agree to stop trying to lie to each other, so they can have a more healthy marriage. And when it's time for Tamar to have her baby, it turns out she's having twins. So just like we discussed a few parshas ago when Yaakov and Esav were born, like we know like, both twins can't come out at the same time. They want to know who the older twin is. So they see like a little baby hand poking out and they tie a red string around his wrist to be like, that's the first baby. But then the other baby comes out first. And they're all like, baby, you made such a mix up. So they name that baby Peretz, which means mix up. And then the second baby comes out with the red string on his wrist, and they're like, ah, there's that bright red string. So they name him Zerach, which means bright color. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, so Yosef got sold into slavery. He's brought down to Egypt and sold to a guy named Potiphar, who works for the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. Now, Yosef works very well for Potiphar. He does such good work that Potiphar puts Yosef in charge of all his stuff. Yosef, the Torah tells us, is also very handsome and good looking. And Potiphar's wife wants a piece of that. And she says, hey, Yosef, come on a date with me. And Yosef's like, excuse me, you're already married, so that's completely not okay. So, no. And she doesn't care. And every day she's like, Yosef, come on a date with me. And Yosef's like, excuse me, I already told you no. Please leave me alone. And every day she's like, Yosef, come date me. Yosef, I want to go on a date with you. Yosef, come date me. And every day he's like, no, please leave me alone. And she doesn't leave him alone. Finally, one day, they're all alone. Nobody else is around. And she grabs Yosef. She's like, you're coming on a date with me right now. And Yosef's really scared. He doesn't want to do this. So he runs away and his shirt rips off in her hand. It's like, I don't even care. I just got to get away from her. He runs outside. When she sees that she's got part of his shirt in her hand, and that he's not doing what she wants. She's like, okay, I've got a plan. I'm going to get him in trouble then. And she starts to scream. And everyone else comes running. They're like, what's wrong? What happened? She's like, oh my God, that terrible person, Yosef, attacked me viciously. And I tried to fight him off, and his shirt ripped off in my hand. And when I screamed, he ran away. It was terrifying. Is this true? No, she's lying through her teeth. This is the opposite of what happened. And then her husband Potiphar comes home. She says the same thing. She says, oh, my darling Potiphar, you have to save me. That terrible, terrible Yosef tried to attack me. And I tried to fight him off, and his shirt ripped off in my hand. And when I screamed, he ran away. It was awful. Ask anyone. They'll tell you it's true. And Potiphar says, Yosef, you can't just attack people. You're going straight to jail. And Yosef gets sent to jail even though he never did anything wrong. And even in jail, Yosef is a hard worker and he does good work. And the head of the jail puts Yosef in charge of everyone else in jail. And Yosef makes friends with the other people in jail. There's a guy who used to be Pharaoh's baker. There's a guy who used to be Pharaoh's wine pourer. They're all in jail. They make friends. And one day, Yosef sees the wine pourer and the baker wake up, and they're so upset. So he wants to be a good friend. He asks them, he says, hey guys, what's wrong? Why are you so upset? And they say, we had scary dreams, and we don't know what our dreams mean. And Yosef says, oh, well, you know who knows everything? God knows everything. So maybe if you tell me your dreams, God will help me know what they mean, and I can help you out. And they're like, really? You do that for us? And Yosef says, yeah, sure. Tell me your dreams. So first the wine pourer says, well, I had a dream that I saw a grapevine with 3 branches. And I watched the grapes grow and ripen, and I was holding Pharaoh's cup. So I squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup, and it turned into wine, and I handed the cup to Pharaoh. What does it mean? Yosef says, ooh, that's a good dream. So the 3 branches mean 3 days. And in 3 days, Pharaoh is going to take you out of jail and give you your job back. And the wine pourer says, yes, that sounds amazing. Yosef says, yes. And can you please do me a favor? When you get your job back, please mention me to Pharaoh, because I didn't even do anything wrong to get put in jail, and I would really like to get taken out of jail. And the guy says, yeah, no problem. Of course, you helped me. Of course, I'll help you. And the baker says, do me next. Do me, do me. And Yosef says, okay, what's your dream? And the baker says, I had a dream that I was walking down the street with 3 baskets piled on top of my head, and the top basket was filled with all sorts of wonderful baked goods. It had cookies and muffins and cupcakes and cakes and donuts and brownies, and there were birds that were eating all the food out of the basket. And Yosef says, oh, that's not such a good dream. Yosef says, so the 3 baskets mean 3 days. And the baker's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And Yosef says, in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to take you out of jail. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And he's going to cut your head off, and birds will eat your body. And he's like, oh, that's not good. Yosef's like, yeah, it's not. So 3 days later, it's Pharaoh's birthday, and Pharaoh throws a birthday party. And at Pharaoh's birthday party, he takes the baker and the wine pourer out of jail, just like Yosef said. And the baker's head gets cut off, and his birds eat his body, just like Yosef said. And he gives the wine pourer his job back, just like Yosef said. Except the wine pourer completely forgets to mention Yosef. So at the end of the Parsha, Yosef is still stuck in jail. And we're going to have to wait for next week's Parsha to find out if Yosef ever gets out. That is the end of Parshat Vayeshev. Shabbat Shalom and happy Chanukah.